let's talk offensive storylines going into this game. And we hit on Dana Holgorsen a little bit in the open. But I want to hit on Emmett Johnson because all of a sudden it feels like Nebraska might have a running back, but we've got ahead of ourselves at times this year. But there's two things. Emmett Johnson is the first 100-yard running back of the season, and Dante Dowdell now has 11 rushing touchdowns on the year.
They have a pretty defined plan, it looks like, that makes sense. As I've been telling you guys, Coach Sipple has been telling you guys all season, Dowdell is a really good inside the 5. I mean, that's where you go with the ball, right? You see the way he flings himself into the end zone, how he fights to get in the end zone, seems to see seams and holes down there, and just is so strong-willed and so strong. But Emmett, I don't know. I just keep giving Corey Cooper credit. Or excuse me, Sean, Corey Campbell. Corey Campbell, not Corey Cooper. Corey Campbell and the strength staff, because his legs are so live. How do his legs look this live 11 games in?
Well, because they rotate so much all year at running back.
That's a good point.
So maybe it'd be different if he'd been the number 1 all year long, but he hasn't. And now at the end of the year, he's as fresh as probably any back in the conference right now. I mean, he looked like he had an extra bounce to him.
He did.
With some of those cuts he made and his ability to run through tackles. How long have we been waiting for Nebraska back to break a tackle? And to be able to just make a play, a one-on-one play.
And Ramir Johnson being out too has helped his reps.
Oh, yeah.
Because they kind of were splitting that third down back role.
Yep.
And Dowdell's role is fairly defined. I mean, 75% of the time he's in for a run play.
Right. And it's very apparent when you look at the snaps and the plays, the snaps versus the plays that he runs. You're right, Sean. So now they got some definition there. What about Ramir coming back, though? Is that happening?
I don't think we'll see him at Iowa play a big role. I think more the bowl game, if I'm being realistic. What do you think, Rob?
It's hard to say just because he wasn't even in the conversation last week to return. Like he just was presumed out. And so missed 2 straight games. And now you're talking about a short week. Is that going to be enough? And do they want to go back to that 3-headed attack? They kind of got something going right now.
Seems
with
like
that 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
With Emmett and Dowdell. So if you don't have to force him back, I don't know why you would.
And I think we have to mention the offensive line, which has had 2 straight very strong performances. I'd say for sure strong performances. The coaches were unified in the refrain of them having their best game against USC. And then they came back strong in this game, particularly in pass pro. If you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, really strong pass pro.
Only 4 hurries, no QB hits, no sacks allowed by the line.
Good. That's good. Now they'll get a bigger test against Iowa. Iowa's a good pass rush team. Markedly better than Wisconsin.
What I like about this game, though, is how Iowa defends. They play a zone, a drop back.
Exclusively zone almost.
Phil Parker has played the same defense for 20 years.
They will. I got to bite my tongue sometimes. They're not exclusive zone, but they're mostly zone.
Quarters, yeah.
They'll match up a little bit, but it's zone is prevalent. That's prevalent. So it is a good matchup.
I just think there's a lot there that sets up for Nebraska because Dylan Raiola and this offense have been at their best when they play zone defenses. And you just wonder. And then Iowa, one of their top defensive backs, is either injured or opted out. So they're not going to be as strong on the back end, which I think is an advantage as long as they can protect Dylan Raiola.
The weather is going to be interesting because it's going to be the coldest game by far Dylan Raiola has probably ever played in. And how's he going to just physically respond to that if he does get knocked around a little bit? The hits hurt more when it's 19 degrees out or whatever it's going to be Saturday night or Friday night in Iowa City. So that's just an element we don't know, but another step in his development and something he better get used to playing.
Oh, yeah. Here's the deal, Rob. I agree with you, except that you have to add this. I love this about Rule. He talked about it today, Monday. 95% of their practices are outdoors. Now, that's a contrast to some coaches we've had here. Sean, when you say they're always indoors, almost.
Pelini.
95%. Sean, I mean, Rob, that eases my concerns about that. Not only that, but just Dylan's bloodlines ease my concern. His dad was a Detroit Lion, played in the NFL. They're cold. It's not going to look at it. Who his uncle is. He'll be fine. The cold kind of affects if it's windy, it affects things quite a bit.
Well, I thought it was notable too that Rule said that when they do practice outside, they go out of their way to like embrace elements. Like with the way that with those outdoor practice fields are positioned, they get like 35-mile-an-hour
throw it into
wind gusts that come across the stadium, and so they throw into it.
And
So
they go both directions.
yeah, anything that they see on Friday night, they will have at least been somewhat prepared.
And I will
for.
tell you this: if I were a head coach in this world, I would have big quarterbacks that can drive it downfield in this league. I wouldn't have smaller quarterbacks. I wouldn't. I'd recruit 6'2", 230 guys that can drive the ball into the wind.
Your football team consists of big 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers.
It does.
Big quarterbacks,
Big running backs,
and a big running back.
yeah, it does. That's how that would be my style.
Just big people.
Yeah, I'd want, especially in this league. I'm not joking around. That's what I want. I want guys that trot out there 6'2" and above. That doesn't mean Wan'Dale Robinson comes along. We can recruit him, but he's the anomaly.
Ja'Cory Barney,
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's
Big Ten Freshman of the Week, by the way.
He
And
can play. He
I
can play.
think as this
Jeez, he can play.
this relationship with him and Dana Holgorsen continues, he's going to get going even more.
You know what stood out when Dana first was talking to him, like a couple weeks ago, his first press conference, whatever, he mentioned Barney and was talking about just the kind of how the receivers have been underperforming. He said, well, Barney's not the biggest guy out there, but he's tough.
Tough kid.
He's tough.
Yeah.
If you're tough, you can play for Dana Holgorsen.
Oh, he's tough too, isn't he?
One other thing I want to get in this segment, Thomas Fedoni.
Yeah.
Only played 3 snaps after a false start penalty. Now, there was a receiver as well. Did he mention a receiver got
Is
benched
that
for
Lloyd?
Isaiah Garcia?
Lloyd didn't
Castaneda?
play.
Yeah, Lloyd didn't play.
Lloyd didn't play snap.
And Garcia played his first offensive snaps of the season.
Lloyd didn't come in, so he didn't have an opportunity to get benched once the game
Did
started.
Bullock get benched?
I don't know.
No,
Was there
Bullock
s-
played. Bullock
But
played.
did he lose his reps as the game? I mean, for Isaiah Garcia Castaneda took somebody's snap.
Mhm.
This is an execution conversation, according to rule. If you don't execute with Holgorsen, you're out.
Yeah.
You might get pulled.
Hey, he pointed to Bonner, who had that breakout game against USC. Then he fumbles against Wisconsin, hardly sees the field
That's
after
who
that.
it was.
Bonner,
I think Bonner was pulled.
after the
'Cause he
fumble.
fumbled.
Yeah, so Bonner only played 15 snaps. Garcia Castaneda played 13.
There you go.
So that's who.
See, some people are going to wonder, guys, like, why weren't they doing this before? Rule, I think his answer essentially was Holgorsen has a little different stature in the coaching world than anybody on Nebraska staff except for Rule. And he can enforce, maybe his voice is a little bit different, right? Because of who he is. And that means something. I'll write about it tomorrow, but I mean, I'm paraphrasing Rule, but a lot of it's just that. Dana Holgorsen carries some clout
Mhm.
that Satterfield, frankly, doesn't. And that's not a knock on Satterfield, but look what Holgersen's done.
It's just the reality.
Yeah,